in my genuine opinion, do you want to know what I think would be the easiest to manipulate with national security involved, with a sweeping gag order, with all the redactions where we can't even see Jack Showalter's name and we all know what it is? We can't even see their faces on body cam footage and we know who it is. The easiest out of all of that to manipulate would be what's written in black and white on paper.
You're mad. Mad at me because I don't trust you. Are you out of your mind? You lied. You betrayed. You manipulated. And now you've got the audacity to act like I'm the problem? I'm supposed to forget all that? Hand my trust back like some naive fool? No way.
And here we go.
Welcome to the Freak Show, the best in town.
Tonight, I want to talk about all the things that's not written in black and white. Devil's Advocates, he doesn't typically do this. This is my disclaimer on behalf of Devil's Advocates. This is a contrarian thinking live stream. We think past the headlines, past the court documents. If you're easily rattled, if you're offended, you're not going to like this. Okay. So let's think past things that are written in court documents, because those court documents are very, very easy to poke holes in for, if nonetheless, reasonable doubt that Brian Koberger, whether it be police reports, ISP reports, DNA testing, it doesn't make any sense. The plea deal makes no sense. I believe if you've looked into it, you'll agree with that. Now, what I'd like to talk about are things that are not just rumors, things that are on camera, that are documented with people that are close to the case. So that could be witness statements. That could be other interviews, like with Christy and Steve and Olivia on the couch saying that someone shot the party up. You could talk about how Stacey Chapin is talking about how 2 a.m. is a dark hour for them. Now, whether or not times are manipulated, let's try to forget about the timestamps when I say this, right? I know you can do that, DA. I know a lot of people not in the chat can, but if somebody is saying 2 a.m. is a dark hour, what would you think that would mean when it's a victim's mother? You'd probably think that it happened around 2 a.m.
That's when it happened,
not 4 a.m.
Right.
Is that illogical to think?
No. I mean, it has to be significant somehow, the timing, if you're going to say it was a dark hour, I mean, so why is it? Yeah.
Okay.
It's a logical step.
Okay. So one of the victim's mother is saying that 2 a.m. is a dark hour. Another family is sitting on a couch saying that their niece called them and said the party was shot up and that Kaylee was shot.
Right. That one blew my ass away when I heard that.
So now we have two mothers. One is saying 2 a.m.
Yeah.
The other is saying that they were shot. And we just let that go?
Yeah.
To me, that's mind-blowing.
It is. So that's why you say, well, okay, let's step back for a second. Let's run with that. Is it possible that someone was shot? Or is it just possible that they were told that? Either way, you have to ask why. Who told them that the place was shot up? Why did they say it was shot up? Who told that person that it was shot up? Like, where did that rumor come from? Because it obviously it got into the narrative somehow that the house was shot up. So who said that? How did it get to the Gonzalez family?
Why was it said? And if it was their niece, how did their niece find out? We don't address any of that. Those are just rumors. They said they shot a party up. Someone came and shot a party up. Not shot them as they got out of their car ride home from the grub truck by themselves. So we have 2 a.m. is a dark hour. We have shooting. We have party. And we have a lack of detail on Ethan and Xana. I just feel like that's so weird to me.
Yeah.
I get it. People are going to say, Birdie, read the court documents. And it's rather obvious that, yes, they are saying this happened between 4 and 4:25 in the morning. I get that. But that is a single press of a button on a keyboard to change all of that. To get a mother to say 2 a.m. when it's not, to get a mother to say that they were stabbed instead of shot, to get somebody to say that it was their niece and lie on their own family member that called them. To me, that seems way harder to get people to manipulate than somebody pressing a keyboard button 4 instead of a 2.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about what Dylan said. Dylan, in the same breath, is saying she was woken up out of her sleep by saying she heard Kaylee, someone's in the house, ran down the stairs, and then it stopped. And then in addition to that, she was dancing with the dog, listening to music. I think she was singing. I saw her walk up the stairs, and it wasn't really talking. It wasn't yelling. And then she turned around and she ran down. And then I'm pretty sure Murphy went out the side door. When did you open your door, Dylan?
Yeah.
Were you watching the entire thing? Why is Kaylee dancing and singing with a dog by herself at 4 a.m? Has anybody asked that question? It's also like, if everybody else is asleep, apparently, and then you're singing, dancing, and playing with the dog, that doesn't make any sense. What does that sound like is actually going on, DA? That actually sounds like, if you go back to what Chrissy said, somebody shot a party up, and maybe Dylan did see that. What do you do at a party? Well, there's music going. Is it unreasonable that Murphy wouldn't be out at a party? Is it unreasonable that you wouldn't be singing along to a song? And is it unreasonable in a party that maybe you wouldn't see your roommate walk up the stairs? And if somebody was upstairs through a sliding glass door, you wouldn't say, someone's here, and then sprint down the stairs.
Yeah.
The time that they're saying this happened, it can in the same breath not be relevant at all.
Right. If I were playing devil's advocates and it didn't happen the way that Dylan said it happened, but Dylan saw things and she does know what happened, it almost feels like she's just not really good at keeping her facts straight. So they're interviewing her. She knows she saw something different than what really is being said. This was the devil's advocate's position, they want her to tell a different story, but she's making it up as she goes, and she doesn't keep her facts straight. So it changes, and little details change. And then somebody comes along and goes, well, that makes no sense. So then it changes a little bit again, because it's a made up story. And it's like, and she's not really terribly good at it. And maybe that puts a lot of pressure. If that's happening, maybe that puts a lot of pressure on her. Like, oh my God, like people are treating me like shit because I can't keep the story straight, but it's a fake story in the first place. I'm being told to tell a fake story. You could say that that's what's happening, that she's being told to tell a fake story. And then she's getting beat up because people don't like her story because it's full of shit, because she's not a good storyteller.
Right. And then my question to you is, ISP, MPD, FBI, maybe Homeland Security, nobody says enough's enough, Dylan.
You don't ask questions you already know the answer to. That is my only explanation for why they didn't follow up with Dylan on basic interrogation questions 101. I'm not even an interrogator. I'm not trained in interrogation, but I've seen enough police interrogations that I cannot believe the questions they didn't ask Dylan. And I have to ask myself, why? Why don't they ask Dylan the follow-up questions? You don't ask questions you already know the answer to. It would be the answer, why? You don't have to ask her because you already know what happened. So that's the devil's advocate.
How do you know what already happened then?
This is my argument. They're not used to YouTubers picking the shit out of things and questioning every damn thing they say. They thought it would be an easy sell. They would just have this person say, hey, I saw this. Everybody would mourn. We'd put a guy away, end of story. And then damn YouTubers come up there and like, well, what the fuck with this? This doesn't make sense. Why didn't you ask that question? And now they're scrambling. If that's what happened, now they're scrambling like shit. Like, how do we answer that? Oh, we'll just change this. We'll just change that to fit the timeline, to make the narrative fit, because we've already committed to this is what happened.
I agree with that. I agree with that if it comes to like the ISP and the MPD, but how many other agencies that are national are involved in this?
Right.
Like, you don't think the FBI is used to people on the internet digging into their theories?
Yeah.
But then again, we haven't also heard from the FBI, really.
Right.
So that's interesting.
They've been in a weird back position. So let me pull that thread a little bit. The FBI has been co-located with Moscow police since the beginning of this investigation, and yet never made it a federal case. I've told you that I think that's suspicious in the first place. If Kohberger is the killer and Kohberger crossed state lines from Washington state into Idaho, that would make it a federal case. Crossing state lines automatically gives them jurisdiction. Yet the FBI is not the one prosecuting the case. It never became a federal case. Why? Because yet they're embedded with Moscow police, telling them every step of the way, do some real police work, because we're giving you a tip, wink, wink, nod, nod, it's Brian Kohberger, but do some real police work and tie Kohberger to the case, because they don't want to prosecute the case. The federal government doesn't want to prosecute it. So it makes you wonder what's going on. If the feds were there for day one, but they don't want to prosecute the case. Again, part of the argument is the feds don't prosecute cases they don't think they can win. They only prosecute cases they know they can win. So is one answer of why the feds didn't prosecute it is because they knew there was problems and they didn't want to prosecute something that could possibly make them look bad because they won't get a conviction? Or is something else going on and they had to do, and this is my theory more, they did some illegal shit. This is what I believe happened. The FBI did illegal shit to get Kohberger, and they don't want to have to prove it. So they asked Moscow Police Department to do some quote unquote real police work and find a way to tie Kohberger to the crime scene other than the illegal shit they did. And at the end of the day, what did Bill Thompson say? We can't place Brian Kohberger in the house. We can't place him near, we can only place him near the house. We don't have any, like at the end of the day, they had dick. And it's like the FBI said, do some real police work. Don't make us have to show receipts. And when it got down to the point, I'm going to try to end my fucking rant. When it got down to the point that they were going to go to trial and they still couldn't prove Kohberger was in the house, they had to take a plea deal because the federal government doesn't want to admit they did illegal shit to get Brian Kohberger. So they were pressuring to get a plea deal so it never go to trial and have to show the illegal things that were done to get Kohberger. That's kind of
no, I think you're right too, because they broke their own guidelines with IGG.
Right.
Like that is illegal. They can't
and
do
it's more,
that.
Yeah, and it's more than that, I think, too.
And so to your point, okay, I really want to address what you said about they did not expect it to get this big and as much attention as it has, right? To me, that seems like a very local news story, grassroots story, that there's somebody that is determined in the family or in the town that didn't give up, and it got the attention of people on social media and it blew up, and then the mainstream news covered it. But this had the FBI involved from day one. This had, like, do you know what I mean? And it was on the news from day one.
And it's
a little bit different.
Let me pull another thread. Did Payne, right? Detective Payne, Corporal Payne was put in charge of the investigation. Many people question, why was Payne picked to be in charge? What, I know this sounds crazy, but this is the day we're going off the rails a little bit, right? So if the FBI, let's follow this law. If the FBI had something going on, a multi-jurisdictional drug task force investigation, for example, with national security implications going on, and if it had national security involved, it's classified. If the FBI has classified information, they can't just talk to anybody about it. But guess what? Payne is a former paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. He's had a top secret security clearance before. I guarantee you, as a paratrooper, he's had top secret security clearance before. It would be easy to clear Payne to have top secret clearance. And now you have Payne, who's in lead of the investigation, who can have top secret clearance approved very quickly, and embedded with the FBI, who have top secret clearance, to say, look, this is a federal top secret national security situation. We need to get control of this situation. And so in that logic, you would have then the lead of the investigation for the Moscow Police Department handling things for the feds to make sure that the Fed story stays intact and that the classified information doesn't get out. I know it sounds nuts. It sounds crazy. I need to put a tinfoil hat on for that shit. But
I am curious, like, is it, I'm not being mean when I say this because I don't know either, but is like security clearance like a Costco membership? Like once you have it, as long as you stay up to date to it, do you get to keep it? I don't think so.
No, it's not. It's not. But because I used to have a clearance and it's a major process. But I will tell you this. People who have had a previous clearance get fast-tracked through the clearance system. So let's say Payne was in the military and he had a clearance. He's already been fingerprinted 9 ways to Sundays. The government knows everything about him his entire life because he had to get that to get the clearance in the first place. That's a lot of work they don't have to redo for him. So and I've seen people before in the intelligence community that have come on who they say, look, I've got prior history in intelligence or with a security clearance, and they're fast-tracked because a lot of the back work has already been done. They already have receipts. So yes, it's not a once you have a clearance, you have it for life kind of thing. And that's not what I'm alleging. I'm alleging that if he had a clearance before, he could be fast-tracked to get his clearance reinstated. Let me
switch gears a little bit, because I know you said like, oh, I need a tinfoil hat for that and whatever. I get it. I think you and I could both agree that is a complex situation. Everything that we just said is rather complex. Different agencies involved, not expecting this to happen. So they do, X, Y, and Z, and then the public's doing A, B, and C, and then it gets into this cluster. Okay. So let's back up. And it's been a long time since I've asked this, but I'm curious, especially around Dylan's testimony or not testimony. I'm sorry. Dylan's statements, written or verbal. What is the simplest, and I'm not being facetious, and I'm asking the Hive this too, and the Den. What's the simplest answer for why she'd be able to say the stuff she is and not be questioned extremely hard or called out for any contradictions? And I'm curious, like, what is the simplest answer? I don't know. Is it like part of me in my head goes, she's a she's got immunity, or she's
right.
talking. I don't know.
Well,
She's
again,
protected. Yeah.
playing devil's advocates. This is the thing. I think I've asked you this once before, and I told you you don't need to answer. It's a rhetorical question. But what if it really was a federal investigation? What if they were really watching drugs in the area? What if they know something happened that has national security implications, drugs that are running across the border, for example, into Moscow, Idaho, and they're looking to catch a much bigger fish? Would it be impossible to say, we need to keep this investigation intact and not blow our confidential informants and all this stuff that we've been working on for decades because of something that happened? So we're just going to tell Dylan, look, you need to say certain things. You're okay. You're not going to be in trouble. Just say this. We've got your back. Maybe they even tell her it's never going to go to trial. You don't need to worry about it. This is never going to go to trial. Can you get somebody to play along with it? Because again, what if it has national security implications and they just literally say, look, all you need to do is just say certain things and lay low, shut your mouth, and we'll take care of the rest. I don't know.
Well, and dude, this is where there is the reality of this like spider web of verbiage used in the Idaho 4. You have the sweeping gag orders. You have Josh Hurwitz. You have national security. You have what we're watching with Dylan and Bethany play out with this, eyewitness testimony. So I would understand it if this is one witness to a crime that has involvement and they're playing dumb. But this long after the fact, with a defense attorney, with somebody being threatened and their life on the line for a death penalty case, with the FBI, with all this other stuff involved, to me, I would find it hard to believe that just being connected to a powerful family, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying this in every case isn't, or I'm not saying this hasn't happened in other cases, so don't get mad at me. I'm just saying, given that there's 2 survivors and then the other survivors fighting the subpoena to come back and testify is weird. And that she's okay. I'm going to pause. I'm stumbling over my words because I have so much going through my head right now. In addition, what is one thing that both Dylan and Bethany did during their interviews? I believe that Jenna also did this in their interview. What is something that at least 2 of them do, if not all 3 of them do, when asked specific questions about their whereabouts or their timeline? What did they all 3 do? And if you don't want to answer it, we'll let somebody in the chat say it. But what do you think? See who gets it first. Because, and I bet somebody's going to get it right away. Yeah, check your phones.
I will tell you this. I have always felt that Bethany saw something that contradicts what Dylan saw. And Bethany is either terrified of Dylan or Dylan and her group or whatever. And that's why she ran the state. And that's why she doesn't want to come back. And that's why she doesn't want to testify. And that's why Ann Taylor says Bethany has exculpatory information, because Bethany knows it didn't happen the way Dylan's saying. Dylan's doing the controlled narrative. Bethany knows it's not that way. And people want to touch Bethany and she's being protected. You don't have to go back to the state. Don't worry. Nobody's going to arrest you. Do we see Bethany and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Do we see Bethany and Dylan reunited since this happened and being buddies and embracing each other as 2 survivors of this thing? Or are they like separated and Bethany wants nothing to do with Dylan and won't even get near her kind of thing? Like, I don't know. Correct.
We haven't. And Bethany lawyered up fast as hell. Now, I have a theory on, again, this is my theory on what the exculpatory evidence is. It's very simple. Who is the eyewitness? Right? Dylan. What if Bethany knows Dylan left? That's exculpatory, right? Because everything that Dylan just said doesn't matter. Well, and do we even know that Dylan actually went into Bethany's room? I thought Bethany's room was locked. They've only called each other. We have no confirmation that they actually went into each other's room. She just said, run down here. It's better to be with me or whatever than be alone. And then Dylan saying, I'm screwed though, or scared though, then calls Ethan.
And I know, and we should. I know you want to get into that a little bit more, because I remember kind of the theory you have about, was Dylan even there? But I do want to say this, going back to your earlier statement, if Steve Gonzalez's text messages to Brat Norton are real, and I tend to believe those are real text messages, that was a real string. If it was real, He stated Bethany saw someone changing clothes in the kitchen, putting their clothes into a garbage bag. And I've said from day one, Bethany saw somebody, and the problem is the reason why they don't want her to testify because she didn't see Koberger. Sorry, she didn't see Koberger. Look at that slip, Freudian slip. She didn't see Koberger. That's the problem. Bethany saw somebody in the kitchen, so maybe there is another eyewitness, and she doesn't want to be put on the stand to say she saw someone because Ann Taylor has not forgotten that, and Ann Taylor will put her on the stand and say, Bethany, did you see anybody that night? Did you come out of your room? Did you see something? And now she has to, perjure herself on the stand and lie about it. If Ann Taylor can prove it, she's fucked. So did she see something? And that's the problem, is they know who she saw doesn't match the description of Koberger, and that screws the whole thing.
Well, and again, this is where I don't know how else to explain it. Maybe I don't do a good job speaking it into the mic, but in my head, I can wrap my thought process around that Bethany being in her room and Dylan being in her room is complete bullshit.
Right. Because I think that you would say, why? We've all asked this. Why the fuck are both these girls texting everyone in the house and call instead of just getting out of your room and walking there? Go next fucking door. Open your door and go other. Like, why would you text and call them? Hey, are you okay? Like, you're in the house, right? Right? You're in the house. So why don't you just open your door and go over there? Like, what makes sense? Calling and texting everybody and say, well, they're not answering. I don't understand. Open your, if you're, like you said, if you're there. Maybe that's why people say, are they even there? Because it makes no sense. Why wouldn't you just open your door and walk over there and see what's going on?
Right. And Namastella brought up a great point to the opposite of my point. What if Bethany's exculpatory evidence isn't that Dylan wasn't even there and she left? What if it's that Bethany's like, well, I wasn't even there. So why is Dylan saying that she ran to my room? So it's the same thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a perfect example. If Bethany's shutting her mouth because maybe she wasn't there and she doesn't want to have to admit that she wasn't there.
But like, dude, help me understand this. That is so simple. That is so simple to prove. You have one eyewitness saying a roommate was there. You have the other roommate saying, I wasn't there. To say that is not a normal circumstance in a court of law where then you have to prove who was actually there, who was not there, with all the bank statements, with all the security footage, with everything else that we know they have. Come on. They would know that shit like the back of their hand before trial.
Yeah.
And I don't get that. I don't get it at all. I don't get how, even if the timeline is real, why do you frame Brian Koberger? And you could say, well, they're covering for powerful people. Maybe. Or they're covering up for powerful people. But my gut tells me the most logical reason is like the crime and the narrative surrounding the crime is so different in real life than what we've been told that it's confusing all of us because we can't understand a quadruple homicide like this going this way with this much attention. Like, it would have to be so different. In my opinion, it'd have to be so different than anything that we're reading. And it's like, I don't know why my brain, I get it. It's a stretch, but to say that it can't happen and to say that Brian Koberger is guilty because he said so himself in a plea deal that we know people plea out all the time. But when he says this 10 minutes beforehand in back-to-back hearings, the prosecutor is saying he can't put him in the house.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's not just bad. It's not just a bad defense attorney. It's like,
right.
This is a bad story. If this was pitched, people are going to get pissed at me for this. I almost spoke before thinking. If this real life case got pitched to Netflix for a TV show,
they'd say it's not believable.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, you need to write a better script. It's not believable.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Wait, you're saying it's a guy who's never been in the house? He never stalked them? He doesn't have any connection to them or their family members? Nothing on social media? His DNA was found how long after the fact? You guys were tracking him for months? Like, hey, God. Like, what?
Yeah.
How does that plot make sense with this I don't know. It seems like a crime of passion to me.
Right. That's what I've said from very early on as well. But
I love you guys. DA, I love you. Thank you, brother, for popping on up, and I will talk to you next Monday. Cheers.
later.